Hosted by you/platform Disco Funk. What's a scary or disturbing fact that would probably keep most people awake at night? You could have a brain aneurysm with zero symptoms. Any day it could rupture and kill you from significant blood loss. Happened to my mom's friend right in front of her. The seemingly perfectly healthy woman died at 40 without warning during a work trip and while having drinks with her friends. One second she was laughing, the next second she was on the ground. Never woke up again. My poor mom was the one that had to call her husband and kids. There is a plant called Mortality, also known as gimpy or the suicide plant. It's mostly found in Australia and has little stinging hairs all over it. When touched, they inject a neurotoxin in your body which hurts so much that most people rather killed themselves than waiting the 1 or 2 days until it gets better. I have the information from another Redditor on this sub, and haven't found anything that literally says yeah they killed themselves, but I do believe it's true. Anyway, Ernie Ryder, who got hit by this plant in 1963 said, "For 2 or 3 days the pain was almost unbearable, I couldn't work or sleep, then it was pretty bad pain for another fortnight or so. The stinging persisted for 2 years and recurred every time I had a cold shower. There's nothing to rival it, it's 10 times worse than anything else." Source: https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/dendrochnide_moronides. This is more sad. Some hospitals have chilled cribs for stillborn babies. They look like normal cribs but they are cooled. It's designed for families to say goodbye before the child is taken away. Some hospitals even provide a photography service for these families. You can even donate money, so more hospitals have these cribs. It's sad that something like that needs to exist, but kind for families in that situation. In the 70s-80s, the first case of many Southeast Asian refugees in the US who died screaming in their sleep was recorded. This was common for Lao Hmong men who lived through the Cambodian genocide and CIA recruitment for the Lao Civil War. It's theorized that this was an extreme form of PTSD. One story, the man had stayed up for days fearing he would be attacked if he slept. He drank coffee and lied to his parents about sleeping. He did everything he could to keep from sleeping. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. Here's 3. Goats were used as a medieval torture method. Strap someone to a chair for 2 days, with their feet dipped in salt water. Release a goat into the room. The goat will lick the salt of the victim's feet, and since a goat's tongue is super coarse it will strip the flesh off down to the bone. No pleading, and no mercy, the goat won't care about the screams. In very ancient times, a way of execution was to bend 2 palm trees together, tie someone's ankles to them, and let the palm trees go. They would immediately spring up, ripping the victim in 2. It's better to pick up a human head with 2 hands, because it's as heavy as a bowling ball and the weight is uneven. I'm not sure about picking it up by the hair, because I'm pretty sure it would be slick with blood. There's nothing fundamentally stopping something in your brain from breaking forever while you sleep tonight. You could be hungry forever, lose your eyesight, become consumed with uncontrollable rage, whatever. All it takes is a tiny hemorrhage in the right spot responsible for regulating some signals, and they can happen to literally anyone. Unit 731. Japan during World War II makes Nazi experiments look like child's play. Here's a few things they did. Experiments never used anesthesia, so prisoners were awake and felt everything. Vivisection, frostbite testing, forced pregnancy, biological/germ testing, weapons testing, removal of limbs and attaching them to other areas of the body in high-pressure chambers. The worst part is none of the doctors or staff who conducted these experiments were ever punished. They were granted immunity in exchange for all of the documents they had collected doing these experiments. Edit. Just remembered this and wanted to share it. They also bombed China with fleas that were infected with the bubonic plague. Edit. I'm in no way defending Nazis, and child's play wasn't the best way to put it. However, we only hear about the atrocities that Germany committed when there's arguably worse crimes committed by other countries during the same time period. When an autopsy is performed, the organs are removed, weighed, sliced and placed into a plastic bag. This includes the brain and tongue. Once they're finished, they put everything together in the plastic bag and place it in the chest cavity. So when you're buried, your brain is actually in your chest. Think of someone you love but only see a few times a year. Now take a guess at how many years until one of you dies. How many more times in your lifetime are you going to see that person? If you moved away from your parents and only see them 3 times a year and you expect them to live another 30 years, That's less than 100 times you will ever see them again. Law enforcement bases their methods on catching serial killers on the ones that let themselves get caught. The truly foolproof and effective ways to get away with murder are still unknown, and there are probably many serial killers getting away with murder because the procedure for murder investigations has not changed much in years. Learned this one watching Mindhunter. Go outside at night, put a flylight against your temple facing towards what you are looking at, like a headlamp but parallel to your eyes, and look at the grass. All those little sparkles that look sorta like dew? Spiders. They're all spiders. At that moment you will truly realize spiders are everywhere and the vast majority are harmless. Or 2. You now have arachnophobia if you didn't already. I get it as a meme to hate spiders, but they are little marvels of evolution. Plus they eat mosquitoes. Fuck mosquitoes. The fact that some of the most common theories about the end of the universe is that either A. The universe starts to expand so fast and so much that first gravity won't be able to hold galaxies together, then individual solar systems, then planets and stars, and then every single molecule and atom destroying everything in the universe. B. The universe will expand so far that the total amount of energy spreads out over the universe in such a large area that the average temperature reaches so close to the absolute temperature of 0 Kelvin that the entire universe freezes. C. Gravity wins over the energy expanding the universe, making the universe contract at an exponential rate, so the average temperature becomes so high that fusion would be able to take place anywhere. It takes around 15 million Kelvin for fusion of atoms to take place. Hereafter the universe would shrink to the size of a proton in sort of a reverse Big Bang. Maybe after this a new Big Bang would occur, repeating everything over and over again. Sepsis. Sepsis is a worldwide silent killer that causes 8 million deaths globally each year. It causes more deaths than breast cancer, prostate cancer, and HIV/AIDS combined. Sepsis is the leading cause of death in hospitals. It can kill you in a matter of mere hours without showing any symptoms until it is too late. For those that are fortunate enough to survive it, it has an increased chance of reoccurring after your initial battle. Up to 60% of survivors experience post-sepsis syndrome, a chronic, potentially lifelong condition that impairs a survivor mentally, emotionally, cognitively, and/or physically, that hinders their ability to live their life properly. Please take just 5 minutes to familiarize yourself with the signs and symptoms of sepsis. It is an incredibly acute, silent killer that shows no mercy no matter your health or age. Knowing the signs and symptoms might just save your life, or the life of someone you love. Source: I am a 2x severe sepsis survivor who has permanent organ damage, is now physically handicapped, and legally blind. Years ago I saw an episode of Monsters Inside Me where this guy was doing something outside and a fly flew into his eye. It only made contact for about a microsecond, but it was enough time for it to lay eggs. After they hatched they started eating his eye from the inside and he was starting to go blind until the doctor figured out what was wrong. Just imagine that, getting your eye eaten from the inside and losing your sight all because a fly very briefly made contact with you. Ever since I learned about this I get really paranoid when there's a fly around my face because this could possibly happen to me. The fact that people who enjoy heavy violence and other disturbing matter perform on anyone, even children and animals, exist, and that they can look like everybody else on the street, a normal person. Edit. I'm sorry I wasn't being more specific here, and also thank you for all of you who gave me some more insight and information about this. What I'm referring to is people who enjoy violent behavior and disturbing matter done to anyone, and are taking pleasure in seeing or performing them. People such as thriller and gore fan are not included. They enjoy violence in popular media, but they are fully aware it's wrong and don't have any intention in doing what they enjoy seeing. Not to mention that some, or even most of thriller and gore fan do not enjoy seeing real violent behavior. They like seeing it happen to people who try to mess with Aaron, but not when they see real footage of a guy down the street being punched and stabbed. Sadly, there are those who are either taking it too far, or they are generally enjoy seeing the pain of other and maybe even motivated in doing it. No one will ever see this, but I feel compelled to answer this question. In the late 1980s, the Soviets were producing weaponized smallpox virus by the ton and loading them into warheads, 2 warheads per bomb, 10 bomblets per warhead. They had bulk tanks full of liquid smallpox. When the country fell and inspectors went in to secure that stockpile, US and UK knew about it from defectors and intelligence ops. They didn't come close to finding everything that they knew had been produced. Death by smallpox sounds like one of the worst ways to die, and they were mass producing a strain called India 1 which is particularly virulent and nasty. It is also an incredibly contagious disease, unlike Ebola, And it definitely airborne. If you want to read more, I suggest Richard Preston's The Demon in the Freezer. Edit. People saw it. Huzzah. That people with any amount of power over others will reward any and all behavior as long as it positively affects them, even if that behavior causes others harm. That's why so many people are rude to customer service workers. Because the companies consistently show that they don't care how customers act as long as they continue to pay them. I speak from personal experience. After being promoted to a manager position, I actively removed any toxic people from the work environment, primarily customers, because I would rather the company lose a bad customer than have my employees upset, the nice customers become uncomfortable, and the bad customer be rewarded after complaining. No one in business cares about anyone else, unless they're low on the totem pole themselves. And that goes for any type of system where anyone has power over someone else. A friend of mine had a brother who died in a creepily abrupt and wholly unexpected way. His brother was just 30 years old, a fit runner and soccer player. One night after a few drinks with friends, he returned home and fell asleep in his chair whilst watching TV. He fell asleep sitting upright with his head resting forward, chin on his chest. Try it now. Sit upright and angle your chin down as far as you can. Take a breath. Feel how slightly labored it is? Well, he slowly suffocated himself to death through the night simply down to head/neck angle. Scary stuff. The fact that we haven't a single fucking clue of what happens after death. Nothing is guaranteed based on your faith, or your preference. Even if someone knew exactly what happened after death, with concrete evidence, no one would believe them, this making it useless to even talk about. So, not only is there a metaphorical fog when it comes to post-death, we wouldn't believe what anyone says about it, even if it were true. Sorry, guys and gals. Just had to, get it on paper. Edit. When I say a single fucking clue, I mean what happens to your, consciousness? It would make sense if it didn't matter, since you don't technically exist after death, as your neurons just stop firing, hence making your mind nothing. But, the question still pulls at my brain every now and again. Starting at the first signs of life on Earth, there is only a 1 in 10 squared, 640,000, 10 with 2.64 million zeros after, chance of you existing. This doesn't take into account that if the gravitational constant and weak force were weaker or greater by 1 part in 10 to the power of 40, stars wouldn't have formed at all, making heavier elements impossible. Also, when the universe was a temperature of about 10 to the power of 10 degrees, a change of 1 part in the expansion rate of the universe would have caused it to collapse back in on itself when the universe reached 10,000 degrees. Finally, a change in the strength of the gravitational constant or the weak force by just 1 part in 10 to the power of 100 would cause the universe to expand and contract furiously. Resist the appeal of depressing nihilism, folks. In a few billion years, if life still exists on Earth, they will not be able to observe space because the universe is constantly expanding. Even with the most powerful telescopes, they will only see the void. As a sub-point, this will also probably prevent us from ever contacting alien life, even if such life exists. As a second sub-point, eventually all stars and planets will be destroyed and nothing will exist but black holes and the void. And that's if the acceleration of the universe expanding doesn't cause atoms and subatomic particles to rip themselves apart, destabilizing all of existence.